Welcome one and all to News at Night. Yes, I am back from a well-needed vacation, as is everyone here, I'm assuming, from the Memorial Day weekend. I want to make sure that all of you are enjoying or have enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend in regards of whatever you did. Whether it was going out of town, staying in town via staycation, or enjoyed some of Mama's cooking, which we'll talk about hopefully within the next video or two. But let's get on to the news. So for all of you out there who are up on this late night edition of News at Night, we're just going to go through right quick the overlooked Black history of Memorial Day, which this is in thanks to Time Magazine. And by the way, this is fair use, so I just want to put that out there. But nonetheless, a lot of you probably aren't aware of the origins of Memorial Day, and that's fine. I wasn't aware of this until recently as well. Obviously, with a lot of us being raised and more likely just pushed and indoctrinated through the public school system, a lot of us aren't aware of true history, whether they whitewash it or they just lopside it so that certain individuals will look victorious and other people will look insignificant. Nonetheless, we have the story right here of the true history behind Memorial Day weekend, in which nowadays Memorial Day honors veterans of all wars, but its roots are in America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War. Approximately 620,000 soldiers died, about 2/3 from the seas, which is actually one thing that they don't tell you. A lot of people who die from war in general don't usually die from direct warfare and contact. A lot of it comes from whether injuries or just disease or just subsequent things from the war, but never really from the war itself. And I see Nick Penny here. Thank you for the support. The work of honoring the dead began right away all over the country, and several American towns claim to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. Researchers have traced the earliest annual commemoration to women who laid flowers on soldiers' graves in the Civil War hospital town in Columbus, Mississippi in April 1866. But historians like the Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight have tried to raise awareness of freed slaves who decorated soldiers' graves a year earlier to make sure their story gets told too. According to Blight's 2001 book, Racism Reunion, The Civil War in American Memory, a commemoration organized by free slaves and some white missionaries took place on May 1st, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, at a former planters' racetrack where Confederates held captured Union soldiers during the last year of the war. At least 257 prisoners died, many of deceased, as stated earlier, and were buried in unmarked graves, so black residents of Charleston decided to give them a proper burial. And here you can see, I believe, is the clubhouse at the race course where Union soldiers were held prisoner. In the approximately 10 days leading up to the event, roughly 24 African American Charlestonians reorganized the graves into rows and built a 10-foot tall white fence around them. An archway overhead spelled out "Martyrs of the Race Course" in black letters. About 10,000 people, mostly black residents, participated in the May 1st tribute. According to coverage back then in the Charleston Daily Courier and the New York Tribune, starting at 9 a.m., about 3,000 black school children paraded around the racetrack holding roses and singing the Union song John Brown's Body, and were followed by adults representing aid societies for free black men and women. Black pastors delivered sermons and led attendees in prayer and in the singing of spirituals, and there were picnics. James Redpath, the white director of Freedmen's Education in the region, organized about 30 speeches by Union officers, missionaries, and black ministers. Participants sang patriotic songs like "America" and "We'll Rally Around the Flag" and the Star-Spangled Banner. In the afternoon, 3 white and black Union regiments marched around the graves and staged a drill. The New York Tribune described the tribute as a procession of friends and mourners as South Carolina and the United States never saw before. The grave sites looked like one mass of flowers, and the breeze wafted to sweet perfumes from them, and tears of joy were shared. This tribute gave birth to an American tradition, Blight wrote in Race and Reunion. The war was over, and Memorial Day had been founded by African Americans in a ritual of remembrance and consecration. In 1996, Blight stumbled upon a New York Herald Tribune article detailing the tribute and a Harvard University article, but the origin story it told was not the Memorial Day history that many white people had wanted to tell, he argues. About 50 years after the Civil War ended, someone at the United Daughters of the Confederacy asked the Ladies Memorial Association of Charleston to confirm that the May 1st, 1865 tribute occurred, and received a reply from one S.C. Beckwith. I regret that I was unable to gather any official information in answer to this. Whether Beckwith actually knew about the tribute or not, Blight argues the exchange illustrates how white Charlestonians suppress from memory this founding. Sounds like another kind of suppression, particularly referencing the kind of suppression that is actually getting revealed now in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We won't go into that for the sake of time, but I'm assuming a lot of you will know what I'm talking about. A 1937 book also incorrectly stated that James Redpath single-handedly organized the tribute, when in reality it was a group effort, and that it took place on May 30th when it actually took place on May the 1st. So May 30th and May the 1st, so remember those dates. That book also diminished the role of African Americans in fall by referring to them as black hands, which only knew that the dead they were honoring had raised them from a condition of servitude. The origin story that did stick involves 1868 call from General John A. Logan, president of the Union Army Veterans Group, urging Americans to decorate the graves of the fallen with flowers on May 30th that year. So going back to that May 30th date that was referenced in the last paragraph. The ceremony that took place in Arlington National Cemetery that day has been considered the first official Memorial Day celebration. Memorial Day became a national holiday 2 decades later in 1889, and it took a century before it was moved in 1968 to the last Monday of May, where it remains today. According to Blight, Hampton Park, named after Confederate General Wade Hampton, replaced the gravesite at the Martyrs of the Race Course, and the graves were reinterred in the 1880s at a national cemetery in Beaufort, South Carolina. The fact that the freed slaves' Memorial Day tribute is not as well remembered is emblematic of the struggle that would follow as African Americans fight to be fully recognized for their contributions to American society continues to this day. So, as far today on X, yeah, exactly. Hey, shout out to shows and have. Oh man, I should do that. I should probably do that as part of my intro. Anyway, but as you can all see here, we have the illustration from an Alfred Woud illustration of the Union Socialist Cemetery known as the Martyrs of the Race Course in Charleston, South Carolina, which gives us somewhat of a detail of what happened and how the graves of the Union martyrs were aligned, along with the house that you see here, and also, well, I'll let you play. We'll play this before we head on out. I know it's pretty late. Thank you all who have joined us, but yeah, it's late. What can I do about it? Some people, unlike others, have lives, but nonetheless, I figured to give all of you at least something in order to enjoy on this Memorial Day that would be fitting. So, before we end this show, we'll just play a little snippet from Time Explaining Memorial Day. So, fair use, by the way.
goes, it's a time Memorial Day is upon us, and as tradition goes, it's a time for Americans to remember the brave men and women who fought and died for our country. It's also a time to enjoy a 3-day weekend and finally break out that special edition, humongous, it's not spring until the first barbecue UFO-shaped charcoal grill. But did you know 2 cities with the same name but in different states both claim to be the birthplace of this national holiday? Here's what you need to know about the history and traditions of Memorial Day. While the birthplace of the holiday might be contested, we know the origin of Memorial Day came from the end of the U.S. Civil War. After the war, soldiers in the North and South decorated the graves of comrades who died, at least 600,000 by the time fighting stopped. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs says one of the first instances of Americans honoring the fallen took place in Columbus, Mississippi, April 25, 1866. A group of women decorated the graves of Confederate and Union soldiers, but Americans in at least 5 other cities, including Columbus, Georgia, all seem to think they were first. A writer at the New York Times says the claims of the 2 Columbuses, Mississippi and Georgia, are the most nuanced and intertwined, with the misprinted newspaper date being the culprit in the who did it first feud. But he also mentions a forgotten event in Charleston, South Carolina in 1865 that might have triggered it all. Black workmen properly reburied the Union dead that were found there, and on May 1st, a cemetery dedication was held, attended by thousands of freed blacks who marched in procession around the track. Despite all that, Waterloo, New York was named the birthplace of Memorial Day in 1966 because of a ceremony for fallen soldiers that took place a century prior. In 1868, Major General John A. Logan declared Decoration Day, the precursor to Memorial Day, to be observed May 30th because that's when flowers would be in bloom nationwide. But the wounds from the Civil War lingered, and Americans in the Confederate States considered Memorial Day a celebration for fallen Union soldiers, so they commemorated the dead at their own discretion. May 30th became a day to honor all American soldiers who gave their lives in combat when U.S. soldiers returned from World War I. Memorial Day became a national holiday in 1971, and since then, Americans have celebrated the fallen military men and women through tributes, celebration, parades, and more on the last Monday in May. Thanks for watching. I'm Jamal Andrews.
And as the gentleman stated, this day is for all veterans, regardless of race, regardless of length in service, and regardless of, well, if you've ever seen the battlefield. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me on this late night edition of News at Night, and let's give a salute to those who deserve it on this Memorial Day.